So now that we're talking about Shedeur Sanders, okay, Bert, this is what I'll say about Shedeur Sanders. The word fell or slipped in the draft to me.
I don't like slipped.
He was pushed. He didn't slip.
So when you say pushed, are you going like they were teaching him a lesson intentionally
100%.
route? Yeah.
I think they were. I think teams. I do. Okay, so here's the crux, right?
Yep.
He went 144th in the 5th round. He was projected as a first round pick.
Yes.
He was I believe,
He
second
was
highest
never
rated
projected to be the top pick, though.
No, and people say that. So like the fact that Shedeur was projected to be drafted in the 1st round and eventually got drafted in the 5th round,
yeah,
overall to me is ridiculous. Like that's not a slip to me.
Well, when you look at the other 3 that were drafted before him, I get it. Now, Cam Ward was going to go 1.
Right.
He's
superior. Yes, I got that.
Yep. What I think shocked me, and I'm willing to give the Giants a pass because we didn't see another QB taken until Jackson Dart, right?
Right.
So the Giants ended up going with him. But what we got to remember with the Giants is since Shedeur didn't participate in the combine, which we've spoke about here, we don't have an issue with that whatsoever. No. I personally feel you should be able to look at the tape. I don't think a skill demonstration is going to provide value to someone who has as much notoriety as Shedeur. Other people feel differently, and that's perfectly fine. But the Giants had him out to work out with him and interview with him. Obviously, they didn't feel it was the right fit. We talked about this in the last show, too. I didn't personally want to draft Shedeur because he was someone who was going to develop and want to play immediately. And we just signed 3 quarterbacks within a matter of 2 months. To me, it didn't make sense because it's not like we were holding out on a quarterback. We just signed 3 of them.
Yeah.
So like we didn't have that need anymore. That being said, had they taken him 25th overall, I wouldn't have been mad at it.
Yeah.
Because we didn't waste the 3 pick on him. So, and then you get to New Orleans. And I think that's where a lot of us were like, why wouldn't they draft Shedeur 2nd round, 40th overall? And why would you go with Tyler Show? Is it Show?
Shog, I believe.
Shog?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
3rd round to the Browns. The Browns ended up taking Shedeur anyways. So if we're looking at this, if I'm putting on my tinfoil hat and we're going conspiracy route, which I'm honestly all in.
Yeah.
And I know that there have been a lot of talking heads out there saying there's no way the whole league would have done that. Either something has come out that nobody's telling us, or they were doing this maliciously to a certain extent. Because I don't understand how his value would have dropped so much, especially after over the last 2 months having to hear about just where in the 1st round he would go, knowing that he's not going to go number 1. Who could use a quarterback like Shedeur? Where would he fit in best? And this same media machine that propped up these projections as high are the same individuals after the fact that are now filling in the gaps and going, well, this is why, because this quarterback is this and he doesn't. And actually, it makes sense that he didn't go until the 5th round and so on. And to make matters worse, I had to watch a clip of Chris Carter wasting his hot fucking breath about how he should have acted differently. And that's what dropped his stock. And, you're a person even after you're a football player, as though this man didn't speak to a whole room full of rookies, telling them to get a fall guy, as though he's some holier than thou person, football player. And we're talking, and you said this perfectly in a lot of the comments in terms of replies to the post. You said, we're talking about someone who is showing up confidently with ego, but has nothing personally damning at this point, aside from the fact that many individuals just don't like his personality and how he acts. He didn't show up in the same with any type of coke problem, drug problem, arrests, DUIs, much like, the Johnny Manziels or the Bakers of the world. And look, I'm not saying that this is what they should be labeled with the rest of their lives, but, this is what happened into the draft, and they were still selected rather high. And we can go into their specific collegiate stats all we want. And we're not saying Shedeur is the best quarterback to ever be entered into any draft.
Right.
But in this draft, he was, for all intent and purpose, projected to be the second quarterback to go off the board.
Says Brown's got a damn army of quarterbacks now.
They
yeah,
do.
I mean, and listen, all that aside, Shedeur's in a good spot. You have Joe Flacco, who's probably going to start, but he's 40-something years of age. You have Kenny Pickett, who's been on 3 teams in the last 3 years.
Mhm.
Doesn't look like he is who people drafted, who Pittsburgh drafted. I'm not going to say a bust, but he doesn't look like a franchise guy either. And then you have Dylan Gabriel, who you're already better than. We know this because we've watched the games.
Yeah.
And then you have you. So I can see if the Browns not playing well at the end of the season. Now he has to make the team and all that stuff, and I'm sure he will. But
I think he's going to. He's
going to be hard
on his shoulder beyond anything else. Yeah,
but it's going to be hard because as of right now, just based on how he's drafted and what the team has, he's going to be 4th string unless an injury happens.
Yeah,
and then so he's going to get limited reps anyway. Maybe they'll split him between him and Gabriel. I don't know how it's going to shake out. I would assume just based off name and who he is, he's going to have a pretty fair shot to make this team.
So here's the thing, though. We can't sit here and say based off name he should play, because that's a lot of the arguments in the past of being like, well, the only reason he was starting in college because his daddy coached. And I'm like, that's not the case. If you knew how competitive Dion was, he's not going to start someone just because he's related to him. He's going to have to compete, and he shows that he has. He's had fantastic stats for all intent and purpose. I will say I wouldn't be surprised, and this is nothing against Jersey boy Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Flacco doesn't play a full season.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked either.
I mean, we're talking about someone who he's a journeyman. He's the Ryan Fitzpatrick of this.
But he's the best person to be for the team. He's the veteran. He knows he's been around the block.
Yes,
right.
yeah.
As a locker room guy, not somebody to play, but to calm Shedeur and whoever down, teach him how to be a professional, because you can say anything you want about Joe Flacco. He's a Super Bowl champion, and he may be a journeyman now, but he was a franchise quarterback. And when he was at the height of his powers, he was one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Mm-hmm. And so he knows what it takes to win, and not only win, stay in the league for a long time. Mm-hmm. So, he keeps getting these jobs because of who he is, and other quarterbacks flame out after 1 or 2 chance cycles. So, that everything's set up right for Shedeur. Now, you talked about, do we think he's the best quarterback? No, obviously not. He's not athletic. He's not overly athletic, right? Where he's not in the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. He doesn't wow you with anything. He doesn't have some cannon for an arm, but he's accurate. I think he was the most accurate quarterback in college football last year. And he's smart. He has high football IQ. He's a system quarterback, and Kevin Stefanski is the right coach for that system for him. So I see, if you're telling me that his ceiling is Baker Mayfield, because that's the closest thing I can see, I'm happy with that, because Baker's pretty fucking good.
Baker is good. And it took Baker a while to find the right fit, the right team, right? And honestly, I mean, you talk to any Tampa Bay fan, they're happy with Baker.
Yeah. They want me to these Penn Bulldog guys, they're back. Flacco got to stay on the bench with his age and health, his emergency only. I mean, I could see him starting at first because he does give them the best chance to win. They're going to see. I mean, they were almost in the AFC title game with Joe Flacco 2 years ago. So, I mean, I know that father time doesn't work backwards, but I mean, I'm sure they're going to give it a righteous shot.
I think they're going to have a tough camp in deciding, who's doing what. But I do think, I would say it's either Flacco or Pickett.
Yeah, to start.
It'd be tough to say that either Gabriel or Shedeur is going to jump above that, but you never know.
Yeah. The Penn Bulldogs want me to talk about them beating the 6th ranked whoever. It was a stunning result. I mean, you guys were unranked. People were counting you out. You took down a 6th ranked team that nobody saw coming. It was the kind of upset that'll be talked about for years. Maybe forever. So you got to give credit to the Bulldogs. They came out with a game plan, Bert. They executed flawlessly. Stifling defense, great clutch scoring, and just determination. What a moment for their players. What a moment for their coach, Scott Flatham, and what a moment for the fans. Shout out to the Penn Bulldogs. All right, Bert. So what I don't like is, you know, I would. It can, to me, it can be racism and it can be politics and it can be this, and you don't like the way he acts. Here's the crux of the matter, and this is just me speaking. Yes.
Whether it's any of that, at the very least, it's bias.
It's a bias.
Yeah.
Whatever bias you want it to be.
Yeah.
You know, we had some guys that are loosely affiliated with the network, couldn't give me a really good reason to why they're biased. And I asked him, and he immediately assumed that I thought he was racist. No, I didn't say that. Never said that once. You said that. Shedeur could have been piping your wife down. He could have been in there clapping your queen's cheeks. I have no idea why you don't like him. That's why I'm asking. So
the post brought out, and many individuals thought that there was implication there. And look, take it as you want. This is how I viewed it, non-racially, but rather from a football family bias sense.
Yeah.
And you made the stark comparison of Archie and the Mannings, and Archie basically saying Eli's not going to play for the Chargers. He's not.
Right.
And what the difference is, because a lot of people at the time, in terms of why he was being pushed down the draft, Shedeur, a lot of individuals are pointing to Dion. They're pointing, he's too involved. He's going to do this. Owners are getting scared that if they draft Shedeur, he's going to come in and coach, as though that's something that was out there in the universe, as though he said, and that they wouldn't have a say on. The reasoning that I saw in these comments were absolutely absurd to me, as though people were just inventing scenarios in their head and justifying their own individual bias and refusing to admit to themselves what they really thought on it in itself. I compared the two situations from a family sense, and you're 100% right. I remember the Eli draft. I didn't care as much because it benefited my Giants.
You're right. Yeah, I'm about to say you're a Giants fan, dog.
I know people who were Ole Miss fans who loved Eli at Ole Miss, who were furious at him for acting like this, or for the situation with Archie acting like this, because, you know, you should be thankful for you're at the draft and you should go to an NFL team and so on. And, you know, we have the same situation where individuals are pointing back and saying, oh, well, Manning had better stats. Eli was better. Peyton was better. Like, you know, they did this. And it's like, well, you're forgetting A, how pissed you were when this happened. But B, you're thinking of the quarterback now. You're thinking of these individuals playing now, and you're giving them a hall pass and saying, well, they've earned it. And we can sit there and say, if you're going to bring personality into this, then you're going to have to hold that true for any existing NFL quarterback player out there right now. We have a quarterback in the NFL that is yet to sign with a team who's, you know, Aaron Rodgers. And say what you want. If you're gonna dog Shedeur for the fact that he's confident and cocky, I mean, take a fucking look at A-Rod over there. I mean, it's basically the same thing. The difference is Aaron Rodgers has proved himself in the NFL, MVP, Super Bowl winner. That's fine, but you can't give a knock on Shedeur, because as far as I'm concerned, as a football fan and someone that I want in my franchise, I want them to come in confident, borderline cocky, and ready to get shit done, especially because he has a track record of proven ability. So I mean, that's the way I took it. And to see some of the comments of just absolutely blowing up of, oh, well, this is race bait and this is this, and he wasn't that good and he isn't this, I completely lost it. I was like, this is absolutely absurd.
It's not so much. So it's funny you say classism. It's the word that I was using with people. It's not racial. It's cultural, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it can't be racist. Cam Ward was drafted number 1.
Yeah.
Okay, let's examine Cam Ward versus Shedeur Sanders for a second. Cam Ward is quiet, doesn't wear a lot of jewelry, right? Doesn't have somebody in your face. He's not on social media like that. And I'm telling you, Bert, as an old white owner, they look at that and that's safe. That's a safe, somebody I can trust. They're not used to, and this is, I mean, you know, Colin Kaepernick once compared the NFL to like slave ownership, right? Like that was his, excuse me, that was his whole bag, right? Think about it. They want these players that come from nothing. They want them submissive so they can control them. Jerry Richardson, famously, owner of the Carolina Panthers, told Cam Newton, I want your hair to be short, clean, You're not allowed to get any piercings. You're not allowed to get any tattoos. He didn't get his first tattoo until the Teppers took over. And that was damn near almost at the end of Cam Newton's tenure. And so, to me, it's all part of a larger pie. They don't like a strong, confident, young black man who kind of has written his own destiny. They want a guy that they can, quote unquote, control. That's not an opinion of mine. That is how it works, because we are evidenced by something called history. And it's been shown to us time and time again that that's how it works, because that's how they like it. And so it can be racial because, again, we've already proven that with, you've mentioned Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield got a DUI and was fighting police before the draft. Let me ask you, if that was Shedeur Sanders doing that, you think he would have got drafted at all? Probably not. Johnny Manziel was doing
been later than when he did already. Like
Johnny Manziel was doing coke before A&M games. You think if that would have came out against Shedeur or Cam Ward, for that matter, you think Cam Ward would have still went number one? Probably not. Yeah. So what is it then, right? And yeah, it is a little bit of classism. What do you want Shedeur Sanders to act like? He's a rich black dude, and a lot of these black athletes that come through the league are, and I'm just generalizing, I'm not saying all, I'm saying most, come from single parenthood, generally the single mother. Some, and they come from poverty, because what is the first thing these players do when they get drafted, Bert? What do they go do when they sign their contract? They go buy their mom a house.
Go buy mom a house.
Retire my mom. So, and these owners bank on that ideal. They don't have that power now, right? Yeah. They want you to come from nothing. They want you submissive, and they, excuse me, because that's the image America has always shown the world. That's what they always show. They flash to the mom sitting there crying because their son is there. And, I think after the draft, the way Shedeur has carried himself, I'm bothered. On full display, dancing, happy, thanking God, not a puppet, desperate to buy his family that house or escape poverty. He has leverage, and NFL teams and owners hate that lack of control, in my opinion. So, and it's funny about the people that hate that, because Shedeur's already in Cleveland. He's already speaking in Cleveland high schools. He was doing that today. Yeah. Already in the city talking about
the weekend after, flying out immediately to get to work.
But his character's terrible, right? You know, and listen, he interviewed bad, according to who? The New York Giants? No offense, Bert. The same New York Giants that gave Daniel Jones a huge contract and let Saquon Barkley out the door. That's the intel we're trusting here.
No offense taken whatsoever. But what's so funny is some of the individuals that were criticizing him for how he was acting afterwards, and like you mentioned, thanking God and partying. One of those individuals is Chris Carter. So in saying, he must have spent, I think I forget the direct quote was, like saying he must have spent like 20 million or whatever it was on the parties and this, and it was just too showy and it was too much. And I'm sitting there going like your career wasn't as subdued as you might remember. Like this is absolutely insane. But that was for him to celebrate. He just made, look, he put in work in college. He had the privilege of being coached by his father,
which we all would love and do.
Who turned around not one but two programs in college football, and then literally for any athlete, being drafted at the highest level is a success story in itself, regardless if you grew up privileged or not. So go ahead and celebrate, but to take a flight out and get to work right away, that response shows me that chip on his shoulder is deep, and he is coming out to prove a point. And as the gentleman in our comments said earlier, he's going to make people regret not drafting him.
So far, the things that they told me that Shedeur Sanders lacked: poise, resolve, maturity, necessary to lead an NFL franchise. His response to all the disappointment is standing tall. And instead of hiding, he's in Cleveland doing his thing. Strengthens his reputation to people who are already supporting him. And it's exactly why people are resonating with him, Bert. He isn't trying to fit into some mold that the owners want. He's being himself. It isn't he's not telling us what, what's funny about the people that are arguing and calling him cocky and saying that they hate what he's doing. Yeah. These so-called Americans, isn't Shedeur Sanders representing what you love?
Yeah.
You want the government to stay out of your business. You want to say what you want to say and do what you want to do and keep your guns.
You want
being
freedom.
Openly defiant and free.
Yeah. You don't want to be controlled by the NFL owners out there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Isn't Shedeur exemplifying all of that? You cry about all this stuff, but then you're demonizing and villainizing this kid for being exactly who you all claim you want to be or what you want in life. So I don't understand. I listen, you think the kid's an asshole? Fine, say that. I don't like him because he's an asshole. It's not because, don't try to make up shit like he's not good at football, because he is. He's not the best, but don't tell me he's not good. He's good. And don't tell me that it's anything else other than the fact that you see a face or you see a lifestyle that you don't agree with. And you know what? That's also cool. I wish he was more humble. I wish he was doing this. Why you wish that? I don't know. But just say that, but don't make up excuses to why you think this kid is so terrible when he's not.
Well, it's all this proven. Basically, they've got to prove value to me in the NFL and my team in order to give them respect, which to me is absolutely insane to think about on draft day. Like, I mean, you don't know how it's going to turn out. Like, and for me, because my immediately thought process went to, there's so many individuals, and I'm really just thinking about the post that you had made and put up there, because there's so many individuals jumping into the comments, just attacking his character. And that's all I saw. But they're the same individuals, because I looked at some of their profiles and what I could gather at least who they were rooting for, because 9 times out of 10, it was a dude with the bearded sunglasses or someone who had the profile picture set to a dog or some scenery with 0 followers and 0 posts and 3 people.
A bunch of,
they're following 3 people. Yeah, just keyboard warriors. But for me, I found it so interesting that there's so many individuals coming out and attacking his particular character, when from a person standpoint, despite the fact that he's a little bit flashy, he was a good student. He's got like a 3.9 GPA. He stayed out of trouble, but they're the same individuals who root for their favorite football team and will root for the individuals that have things like sexual assault, domestic violence, any other rap sheet, but they're willing to overlook that because there's value in what they're doing for their team. So if they're valuable, making their team win a game that's played 16 weeks out of the year, 17 weeks out of the year, then that's fine. But a kid trying to get drafted that's too flashy, that's where they draw the line. It's unreal to me.